Hello, welcome to Giggle Rachel. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you very much for joining me if you are completely new to my channel. Also a big thank you and hello to everyone who has been joining me every week for the past year or so. Maybe you've been here a little bit longer, maybe you've been here for the last few weeks. I do upload videos every single Thursday, so thank you very much for joining me. Today's video we're going to be having a go with the shoulders, the lower back, the hips, and working with the core. So you're going to need a block. If you don't have a block, maybe a cushion or even a book would do, just so you've got something to work with, because we'll be using that as a little bit of a prop later on. If you have got a block or a pillow and it's comfortable to do so for you whilst you are seated, then just pop the block underneath the tailbone, find a comfortable seat for you, releasing the shoulders away from the ears. We might rest the hands down into the lap, on the thighs, the knees, just closing the eyes and bringing your awareness to your breath. Taking a few moments to check in, listen to how you're feeling as you start your practice. Giving your awareness of your breath. And while we're seated, we're going to start with our belly breath. So on your next exhale, focus on pulling and drawing the belly in towards the spine. As you inhale, let the belly relax and expand. Exhale, engage the core, draw the belly in towards the spine. Inhale, let the belly relax and expand. Stay with your breath. Exhale, engage the core, gently drawing in. Inhale, let the belly relax and expand. Two more. Exhale. And inhale. Last one. And inhale. So letting the belly relax. If you have found a cross-legged position, just changing the cross of the legs. We're going to take the right arm forward and up. Imagine someone's pulling you up by that right arm, starting to find a stretch, release into the side waist. From here, bend into the elbow. See if you can take the right hand to the shoulder blades. We can take our left hand across and just start to walk up and down the triceps. So just in between the armpit and the elbow. Just gently using the fingertips just to encourage the right elbow to stay pointing up towards the ceiling. And we won't be here for long, but quite quickly you'll find that the arm will start to go a little bit numb and tingly. Perfectly fine. Obviously listen to your body, release the pose sooner if you need to. You don't have to wait for me. If we feel quite comfortable and confident that that elbow will stay pointing up towards the ceiling, we can let that left hand relax down into the lap or onto the knee, the thigh, focusing on the breath. If you're still here, slowly straighten that right arm, point it up towards the ceiling, and float the right arm forward and down from the shoulder. Might be giving the fingers a bit of a wiggle, gently releasing and rocking or rolling the shoulders away. And changing sides, so stretching that left arm forward and up. Imagine someone's pulling you up by that left arm, just to gently invite that stretch from the side waist, from the hip all the way up to the armpit. Start to bend into the elbow, take the hand in between the shoulders. You might already notice a difference, right side, left side, perfectly fine. Take the right hand across this time, using the fingertips, just walking up and down the triceps, so in between the armpit and the elbow. And we might keep walking the fingertips up and down the arm, or we might rest that right hand into the lap, the thigh, the knees. Keep that left elbow pointing up towards the ceiling. Again, noticing whether it's got a little bit tingly or numb already. Always release the pose whenever you need to. Don't always wait for me. But when you're ready, we can start to straighten the left arm and float the arm all the way down, giving the fingers a little bit of a wiggle, releasing and rolling the shoulders just as that circulation rushes back into the arm. Just gives the shoulders a little reprieve. So from here, we're going to place the block or cushion to one side and moving into tabletop. So about the middle of the mat, knees hip width apart, knees, feet hip width apart, knees on the mat underneath the shoulders. Place the hands onto the mat underneath the shoulders, spreading the fingertips nice and wide. Find your flat back. Inhale, lift the chin, lift the tailbone, let the belly relax. Exhale, rounding through the spine, tuck the chin, the tailbone under. Stay with your breath. Inhale, lift the chin, lift the tailbone, let the belly relax. Exhale, round the spine. And we might start to add on the belly breath again here that we did whilst we were seated. So as you inhale, the belly stays relaxed. As you exhale, draw the belly in towards the spine. When you're ready, slowing the movement down, find your flat back tabletop. Either keep the knees hip width or take the knees wider. Draw the toes to touch. Pull the tailbone to the heels as though we're moving into child's pose. But start to walk the hands over to the right, keeping the left hand forward and off of the mat. Either take the right hand underneath your head to give you some support if you can't quite reach the mat, or we can take the right hand down to rest by the right foot. So just inviting a side stretch into that left side of the body. If that right hand is down by the foot, take it up to the left hand, lifting your head, walking through centre, over to the left. Take that right hand away over to the left. Either leave the left hand where it is or use it for support for your head. Otherwise, place the foot on the mat and you might place that left hand down by the left foot. So inviting that stretch through the right side waist. Lifting your head up, taking that left hand to the right, walking through centre and just pausing in neutral child's pose. So forehead can rest on the mat, arms might stay extended, or you might take the hands to rest down by the feet. Few more breaths. And when you're ready, slowly come on up to tabletop. So bringing the knees back underneath the hips, hands on the mat underneath the shoulders, spread the fingertips nice and wide. Lifting your right knee off the mat, extend the right leg back, flex the foot so the toes are pointing down. Taking the foot and the knee in line with the hip, starting to find your balance tabletop. So check you're not leaning over to the left, you're not holding the breath, you're not bending into that left elbow to shift the weight. Bring the right knee down, change the sides, so lift the left knee, extend the left leg back, flex the foot so the toes are pointing down, keeping the knee, the foot in line with the hips. Check you're not leaning over to the right, check you're not bending into the right elbow, so sort of shift the weight over. Keep spreading the fingertips nice and wide, so spreading the weight into the palms of the hands rather than the wrists. And lowering back down. So lifting that right knee again, extend the right leg back, flex the foot. We might stay here or lift up onto the onto the left fingertips. So you're lifting the left palm off of the mat. We might stay here, or maybe we can take the left hand to the left shoulder, or reaching the left arm forward. Check you're not holding the breath. Take the left hand down, right knee down, and change your side. So left leg lifted, extend the leg back, flex the foot, toes point down. So we've got the left leg lifted, so this time we can lift that right hand up. So starting with just the palm of the hands, we lift up onto the fingertips. We might stay here, or place the right hand onto the right shoulder, or extend the right arm forward. Focusing on the breath. Right hand down, left leg down. We'll do that once more each side. So right leg lifts, flex the foot. We might stay with the first variation. We'll lift onto the left fingertips, or take the left hand to left shoulder, or extend the left arm forward. Then bring left hand down if it was lifted. Right knee lowers, last one, left leg lifts. Extend the leg back, flex the foot. Maybe we stay there, or we lift up onto the right fingertips, or take the right hand to the right shoulder, or extend that right arm forward. Focusing on the breath. Bring the right hand down, the left knee lowers, and start to come up into downward dog. So tucking under the toes, pull the shoulders back from the wrist, lift the knees, push the tailbone high. We might just keep this nice deep bend in the knees, especially if your lower back and hamstrings are tight, so we might have a little walk through the legs. Pause when you need to, or we might start to check in with our balance here in downward dog. So we can step the feet together. Inhale, right leg lifts, down dog splits. Exhale, lower it back down. Inhale, left leg lifts, and exhale, lower it back down. So just a few more goes, lift and lower. We can keep our awareness with the breath. Doesn't matter how high you lift the leg up. Just try to focus on sweeping the leg back and up, so you're working from the hip rather than lifting through the knee joint. And then as we lower left leg back down, we can lower down into tabletop. Might be just checking in with the wrists, or have a little pause in child's pose. So from here, we might stay with balancing table. We might come back to what we've just been working with, lifting the leg and then adding on lifting the arm. We might stay with our balance in our tabletop, our downward splits, lifting one leg and lowering. Or we might have a go with keeping the feet on the mat, but see if we can lift one hand off the mat. So as you lift into downward facing dog, we can lift the chin and see if we can lift onto the fingertips. Check that you're not starting to lean over to the side. So if you're lifting like me, the right hand, then keep that right foot nice and active. So we keep the hips square. Maybe we start to walk the hand back, keep drawing the shoulders back, so we're in downward dog, not plank. Maybe starting to lift and lower the hand off the mat. From there we might take the hand to the hip, or extend the arm back. Keep the arm down by the hip, so the arm's neutral if you were standing or seated. And we can take the hand back down, have a pause, or have a go on the other side. So as you lift up, check you're not leaning over to the side, keep the hips square. Whichever hand you're lifting, keep active through the same side in the leg. Starting to draw back, maybe you are lifting and lowering by the foot, or lifting the hand to the hip, or straighten the arm, keeping the arm, the hand by the hip. Releasing when you're ready, have another go. So we might be having a go with trying to lift one hand off the mat and lower and back down. Do leave me a comment below. Do you find it easier in downward dog to lift one leg up, down dog splits, or do you find it easier or more challenging now to try and lift a hand off the mat? Still working with a three-legged dog because the feet are staying on the mat, but you're trying to lift one hand off the mat. So usually most people tend to find it harder, more challenging to take one hand off the mat. So we've got that more stabilisation with taking the feet off the mat than we do sometimes with taking one hand off the mat. So see how it feels. You might keep coming back into this one before we have a go with the next variation, or have a go if you wish to. Again, in the comments let me know. Have you had a go, or will you have a go in a moment with your two-legged downward dog? So if it feels quite comfortable to lift one hand off the mat, we can come back up into our downward dog, lifting one leg into our down dog splits. Lift the chin, look at the hand. So note if you have the right leg lifted, we're going to have to lift up onto the left fingertips. Maybe we start to walk left hand back. Maybe from here we're lifting and lowering, finding that stability in our balance. Or we might have a go, we're bringing the hand to the hip. We're extending the arm back. Focusing on the breath, slowly bringing the hand down, the leg down, and changing sides. So you might even just be having a go once each side, taking your time. So we might just stay here, perfectly fine. So don't force, don't push, this one will come in time. Work with your balancing table. And in time, you'll find that muscle memory, that core strength. When you're ready, have a little pause in child's pose. Come on up to sitting, have a drink if you need to. We've had a little go with our balancing in tabletop and downward dog. So we've been working with the core and the shoulders. We're going to find a way onto our belly. We're staying asymmetrically, so we're working one arm, one leg. But we're going to come all the way down to the belly and work with a swimming locust pose. So come all the way down onto the belly, let the legs relax. We can extend the arms out in front of us and bring your forehead down to rest on the mat. And we're going to just lift the right leg and the left arm. See what feels more comfortable for you in the neck. You might lift your forehead off the mat, still looking down at the mat. Or you might keep the forehead on the mat. If you're lifting your head, lift it and lower it back down as you lift and lower the arm and the leg. So lower right leg, left arm, lifting the left leg, right arm, maybe lifting your head off the mat or leave the forehead on the mat. So once you've checked in once each side, if you feel a pinch in your back, then keep that lift low. We don't have to lift all the way up. So the more you lift, the more you're going to start to pinch into the back if that's where you feel it. Keep nice and low. Doesn't have to be an extreme lift. And we can lift and lower with the breath. So we can inhale, lift, and exhale, lower down. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower down. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. Stay opposite arm, opposite leg, so right leg, left arm, left leg, right arm. Inhale, lifting, exhale, lowering. Inhale, lifting, exhale, lowering. Once more each side. And have a little pause. Might place one hand on top of the other, resting forehead on the hand, or you might move into pranam. Here, sliding hands underneath the shoulders, drawing the tailbone back and up to the heels as we pause in child's pose. And slowly come on up to sitting. So this is the bit where we're going to need to use the block or pillow or cushion. You might have a couple of books, and you might even have your water bottle, which you can use because you can lie your water bottle down. If you then do use the extra height, you can stand the water bottle up. So we're just going to have a little go with working with lifting and lowering the legs. So this time we're not working asymmetrically, though you might work one then the other. But we're going to start to go into the hip flexors, the very, very base of your core. So this will help to keep your hips a little bit healthier, keeping your lower back healthy because you're working in with your core. So if you're using your block, just place your block in between the legs. Take the legs wide. So if you're sitting with the top of your mat facing the camera, facing the telly, then just take the feet off of the sides of the mat so the legs aren't too wide. Sit up nice and tall. Place the fingers in front of you. So you're on the fingertips, not the palms of the hands. So you're using the hands as stability rather than placing or pushing the weight down into the legs. Sit up nice and tall. Make sure you don't lean back for this one, and I will change around so you can see this from the side. But we're going to see if we can push very gently through the fingers, engaging the core to lift the legs off the mat. So you're hovering off of the mat and lower back down. You might be sitting watching this going, no, that's not going to happen. We might be trying to lift and lower, so we're launching the legs. What we want to make sure we're not doing is we want to be here, so it's a very, very tiny lift. We're not leaning back or over leaning back to get that lift. So it's not a lift of the legs because we've leant back. We're staying quite neutral in the spine, and we're lifting and lowering. We might have a go, can we lift one leg and lower, lift the other leg and lower? Or if we're not there yet, do not worry. So this, if you're using a block, that variation is variation 5 of 6, and we're going to go to variation number 1. So sitting up nice and tall, legs are wide, probably just spilling off of the edges of the mat. We've got a block, or if you've got a pillow or a cushion or a couple of books, just using one book, so we want it nice and low, or if you've got a water bottle, just lie it on its side. So we're sitting up nice and tall, take the hands together into Namaste, interlace the fingers. And what we're going to do is we're going to lift our right leg up, over the block, tap it down, lift up, over the block, tap it down. Lift the left leg up, over the block, tap it down, lift up, over the block, back to where we started. You will have a little bit of a lean back, but try to make sure it's not too much of a lean back. So lifting, over the block, tap, lifting, over the block, back where we started. Lift, over, tap, lift, over, back where we started. Lift, over, tap, lift, over, lower, back down. Try to check that you're not holding your breath. Checking in, let me know in the comments below where you feel this. So most of us should be feeling this into the hip flexors, so right at the top of the thighs. That's your base of your core. We're starting to get into the base of the psoas. Check you're not holding your breath. And you might stay here, pause when you're ready, or we might have a go with the second variation. So if you're using a block, we can lift the block up to the second height. Again, make sure you don't lean back, so we're lifting over and tap it back down. Lift over, tap it back down. Lift over, tap it back down, lift over. If we're lifting and knocking the block over, then stay with the first level. So we might have a couple of goes, whoop, even I'm lowering that one down. Or we might have a go with the third height, maybe. And I find even with that, I lean back, so I know even for me, I'm going to stay with here. Let me know if you've got to here. Maybe you've got a little bit more movement in the hips, or are you leaning back? So the more you lean back, the more you're going to pinch in and collapse into your back, but you're not using your hip flexors, you're compromising your back to get that lift. So it doesn't matter whether you're here, here, or here, as long as you're working your hip flexors. If you find you're leaning back, if you have got a nice bit of wall that we can lean the whole of the back into, so from the tailbone, you're pushing the tailbone all the way back, all the way up to the shoulders, you might find that you need to bring the legs a little bit closer and stay on the first level of the block. Still keep the hands together interlaced and lift over and tap. Lift over and tap. So let me know in the comments below how you get on with using the wall. This one I definitely find more challenging. I wouldn't be able to lift a block any higher than this. Some people, I know some of my students commented saying they feel this is more in their hip flexors using the wall, so they will stay with this variation. Perfect. So if we want to work with getting this lift, we need to work here. So work with this every time you find yourself sitting on the floor. Just grab something, a proper pillow, a water bottle, a shoe. If you're wrapping up a present, if it's still that time of year that you're practicing this one, as this one's going to go out just before we break up for Christmas, then have a little go. If you've got something there in front of you, working with this will build up the strength in your hip flexors to make this more accessible. If your hip flexors are now shouting at you, pop your block to one side, have a drink if you need to, and let's find our way all the way down to our back for a little bit of Shavasana. So lying on your back, knees might be bent, you might walk the knees, walk the feet wide, dropping the knees together, or extending the legs out. Hands might rest on the belly or fall softly away from the hips. Tucking the chin to chest, closing the eyes, and focusing on the breath. Bringing your awareness back to your breath. Starting to invite movement back in as you roll the fingers, the toes, really stretching the arms, the legs, bringing the knees in towards the belly, wrap the arms and the legs, steady rocking side to side, rolling over to one side, blinking the eyes open, and when you're ready, come on up to sitting. So thank you very much. If you enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up. Let me know how you got on in the comments below. If you're new to this channel, click the subscribe button here and you'll just get a notification every week when a new video is uploaded. And if you want to work a little bit more with the shoulders, I'm going to pop one of my shoulder videos in here. If you want to go a little bit more into working with that belly breath into your core, I'm going to pop a video here. Thank you very much for joining me, and I shall see you next week. Namaste.